Most people think they're missing one thing: a final conversation, one honest explanation, one last chance to ask the questions that never got answered. Because if they could just get closure, they could finally move on. But here's the strange part. Many people get exactly that. They get the explanation, the apology, the conversation, the answer they've been waiting months or even years to hear. And they still don't feel better. They still think about the person. They still replay what happened. They still feel stuck. Which raises an uncomfortable question. What if closure isn't the thing that's keeping you trapped? What if the reason you can't move on has very little to do with unanswered questions at all? The myth of closure. We're taught to think of closure as the final chapter, the missing piece that allows us to put the past behind us. And on the surface, that makes sense. Unanswered questions are uncomfortable. The human brain likes certainty. We want things to make sense. We want stories to have endings. So when a relationship ends abruptly, our minds start searching for answers. Why did they leave? What changed? Did they ever really care? Could I have done something differently? We convince ourselves that if we could just get the answers, we'd finally be free. But in reality, most people aren't looking for answers. They're looking for relief. And those are not the same thing. The answer you want doesn't exist. Imagine someone sits you down and tells you exactly why they left. No vague excuses, no mixed signals, no confusion, just complete honesty. Would that erase the loneliness? Would it erase the disappointment? Would it erase the future you imagined together? Probably not. Because the pain was never created by a lack of information. The pain was created by loss, and information can't undo loss. This is why people often feel disappointed after finally getting closure. They expected the explanation to heal the wound. Instead, they discover that understanding what happened doesn't necessarily change how they feel about it. The real reason we chase closure. If closure doesn't work the way we think it does, why do we chase it so relentlessly? Because closure offers hope. Not hope for understanding, hope for a different outcome. Many people who say they want closure are secretly hoping for something else. A reconciliation, a confession, a change of heart, a sign that the relationship wasn't really over. The request for closure becomes a socially acceptable way of staying emotionally connected. After all, if there's still a conversation left to have, the story isn't finished. And if the story isn't finished, maybe there's still a chance. That's why people can spend months obsessing over a conversation they never had. The conversation itself isn't the goal. The possibility attached to it is. Your brain hates open loops. There's another reason closure feels so important. The brain is remarkably sensitive to unfinished stories. Think about the last time you stopped watching a movie halfway through, or finished a season finale that ended on a cliffhanger. Your mind keeps returning to it. Not because it's necessarily your favorite story, because it feels incomplete. Relationships work the same way. When someone disappears without explanation, the mind treats it like an unfinished narrative. It keeps revisiting the situation, searching for the missing piece. But here's what's interesting. Even when people get the missing piece, the brain often creates new questions. What if they weren't being honest? What if things had happened differently? What if I had said something else? The mind is incredibly good at generating new uncertainties, which means closure is often less about answers than we think. The hardest truth. The hardest truth about closure is that sometimes the story is already complete. You just don't like the ending. That's not criticism. It's human. Nobody wants to lose someone important. Nobody wants the relationship to end. Nobody wants to accept that a future they imagined is no longer possible. But acceptance and understanding are different things. You can completely understand why something happened and still struggle to accept it. And sometimes the work isn't finding a better explanation. It's learning to live with an explanation you already have. What actually helps? The people who move forward most successfully don't usually find perfect closure. They stop demanding it. They stop waiting for the ideal conversation, the perfect apology, the final answer, the explanation that magically makes everything okay. Instead, they accept something difficult. Not every question gets answered. Not every story feels finished. Not every ending feels fair. And yet, life moves forward anyway. Real healing often begins when you stop asking, "What else do I need to know?" and start asking, "What do I need to accept?" That's a very different question, and it's usually a much more useful one. Closure has become one of the most romanticized ideas in modern relationships, but the truth is that closure rarely arrives as a conversation. More often, it arrives as a decision to stop searching, a decision to stop negotiating with the past, a decision to stop believing that one more answer will finally make everything okay. Because sometimes the thing keeping you stuck isn't the absence of closure, it's the belief that you still need it. And once you let go of that belief, you may discover that you've been carrying the key to moving forward all along. If you've gotten this far, here's a little bonus. Reading is one of the best ways to understand yourself, your relationships, and the patterns that shape your life. If you'd like to read more, you can get 30 days free of Kindle Unlimited using the link in the description. You get access to a huge library of books, and if you're already interested in psychology, relationships, or personal growth, there's a good chance you'll find something valuable there. Take advantage of it while the offer is available.